Good morning, children. In the previous session, we were discussing about the formation of covalent bond. How a covalent bond is formed? Covalent bond is formed between two atoms by mutual sharing of electrons. So, I'm going to differentiate your ionic bond from the covalent bond. You need to recollect the points which we have studied under ionic bonds. See, covalent bond is formed between non-metallic elements of similar electronegativity. Hope you remember the first point of ionic bond. I told you it is formed between a metal and non-metal which differs significantly in electronegativity. But here it is formed between non-metallic elements of similar electronegativity. Okay, there they should differ significantly in their electronegativity. Here the two non-metallic compounds should be of similar electronegativity, then only a covalent bond is formed. There ionic bond is formed by complete transfer of electrons. Here they are formed by sharing of electron pairs. Covalent bond is formed by sharing of electron pairs. Now the stable non-ionizing particles, they are not conductors at any state. Okay, I have told you ions are formed at any state and they are conductors, they have high melting point. Here you will not be getting any ions, they will be non-ionizing particles only. They are not conductors at any state. Okay, so exactly the opposite, their ions will be formed at any state, conductors, high melting point. Here they are non-ionizing particles, they do not conduct electricity, they are insulators. An example will be oxygen molecule, carbon dioxide molecule, methane, ethane, water, silicon carbide. So these are the example for the formation of covalent bond. Now let me tell you an example. As I have already told you, covalent bond is formed between two non-metallic compounds which have similar electronegativity. Yes, no children. Now see, this is an example. There is an oxygen atom. This is an oxygen atom. See, 2, 4, 5, 6. 6 valence electron, 6 valence electron. Now this electron and this electron started sharing. Now they achieve octet, right? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? You have innermost one pair. So this double bond, see, can you see how the two bonds, the two pairs of bonds are shared between two oxygen atom such that they achieve their stable configuration. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. So they achieve their stable configuration. Moving to the second one, nitrogen molecule. Okay, what is the outermost electron present here? It is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because nitrogen's atomic number is 7, 2 will be inside and remaining 5 is outside. See here, nitrogen tried to achieve octet configuration. Here 3 pairs of electrons are shared. Here 2 electron pairs are shared between two oxygen atoms such that they achieve stable configuration. Here between two nitrogen atom I have 3 electron pairs which is shared. So 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. So both of them have got 8 pairs of electron, that is 8 configuration. For that we have 3 electron pairs which is shared between two nitrogen atoms. Yeah, some more example. This is NH3. We already know how many electrons are present in the valence shell of nitrogen. It is 5. And see hydrogen. See, this is nitrogen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Red color dots. And coming to hydrogen, hydrogen is sharing its 1 electron with each of these unpaired. So now 2, 4, 6, 8. It has achieved octet configuration. Ammonia molecule. Each hydrogen atom is trying to supply 1 electron each. Okay. Now this is NH4. NH3 plus H plus give rise to NH4. Children, you know up to NH3, right? You add 1 H plus here. See, but ammonium NH4 plus, you know, this is not an example for the formation of a covalent bond. I am going to call that as coordinate covalent bond. Why is that? Because the pair of electrons are coming from same atom. Your hydrogen H plus is going to supply 2 electrons, a pair. It is going to give me 2. So when a pair of electrons is shared by single atom, then a coordinate covalent bond is formed. A typical example is NH4 plus. Okay children. Now this is how. As I have already discussed the difference between your ionic bond and covalent bond, exactly this is the same which I have told you. In ionic bond, ions are formed. In covalent bond, molecules are formed. Here they start conducting, they are non-conductive because they are molten salts. Here they are non-conductive. Here transfer of electrons happens, here sharing of electrons happens. They have high melting point, they have low melting point. Here electronegativity, ionic bond will be formed between atoms having high electronegativity. They should differ much, but here the electronegativity should be less. It should be similar between two atoms, it should be similar. So we have seen about ionic bond and we have seen about covalent bond. Now moving to the types of covalent bond. What are the two types of covalent bond? It is non-polar covalent bond and polar covalent bond. Let me tell you some of the example of non-polar and polar. See, non-polar covalent bonds are formed when electrons are shared equally between two atoms. Say for example, hydrogen molecule. This hydrogen atom will be sharing one electron and the next hydrogen atom will be sharing one electron. So hydrogen molecule is formed. Both should share equal number of electrons. Similarly, your chloride molecule. This is an example for covalent bonds where two atoms share one or more pairs of outer shell electron. This is an oxygen atom and oxygen atom forming oxygen molecule. Okay. See, inner shell has 2 electron and outer shell will be having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, since outermost shell is having 7. See, this is one oxygen atom and this is one oxygen atom. They are sharing this 2 electron. So when you count the overall configuration, they achieved octet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See children, here since the outermost valence shell is having 7 electrons each, they are sharing one electron each. So in between O and O you will be having a double bond. Yes, O2 molecule will be having O double bond O, which means one pair. Okay, one pair. Can you see the pairing between this? So in 7 electrons of outermost shell, there is a pairing between 2 oxygen atom. As a result, you got oxygen molecule. Both of the oxygen atom are sharing equal number of electrons. See, this is about the polar covalent bonds. Non-polar covalent bonds are formed when electrons are shared equally. Yes, no? Now, what about polar covalent bonds? Polar covalent bonds are formed when electrons are shared but the sharing is not equal. Say for example, water molecule. See, this is polar covalent bond. They are willing to share but it is uneven sharing. Okay, one may give 2 and other may give only 1. This is an example for polar covalent bonds. What about non-polar covalent bonds? Non-polar covalent bonds are formed between two atoms which share same number of electrons. And what about polar covalent bonds? Polar covalent bonds are formed between atoms which share unequal number of electrons. One may share 2 and other may share 1. Here the sharing of electrons between atom is unequal. Say for example, water molecule. See, water is a polar molecule. Your oxygen is highly electronegative. What about oxygen? Oxygen is highly electronegative. Since your oxygen is electronegative than this hydrogen, so electrons will be pulled close towards your hydrogen. See children, this is oxygen. Innermost shell is having 2. Outermost shell 2, 4, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This hydrogen atom is it is sharing 1 electron and this hydrogen is sharing 1 electron. As a result, you have got water molecule which has achieved octet configuration but sharing is unequal. Why? Because this is highly electronegative. So your two hydrogen atom will be pulled towards your electronegative oxygen atom. So this is a question whether the sharing of electron will be always equal. Say for example, I have an atom X, I have an atom Y. Which is more electronegative, whether X is electronegative or Y is more electronegative? How will I come to know? Here they are separated by equal number of electrons. This has given 1 and this has given 1. Here electronegativity is 0. So both are standing in intact position. Now here electronegativity of Y is becoming 0.3. So there is a light movement. Electronegativity is 0.6. Can you see the pair electrons are moving towards oxygen? Electronegativity is 0.9. It is still more closer. Now electronegativity is 1.2. So the shared pair of electrons are moved completely towards your Y. This is your direction of electron migration. So always the sharing of electrons is not equal. Towards the more electronegative atom, the paired electrons started moving. This is a slide which shows you the example between polar and non-polar bonds. Say for example, NH3 is polar and CH3Cl, that is methyl chloride, is polar, and HCl is polar. Now which is non-polar? That is CCl4, carbon tetrachloride, is non-polar, and boron trifluoride is non-polar. Okay, so we know what is non-polar compounds and polar compounds. Okay, it is based on the difference between sharing of equal number of electrons between two atoms and sharing of unequal number of electrons between two atoms. Now this is a Lewis representation of simple molecules. We have already seen about Lewis dot structure. See, your Lewis dot structure will be providing a picture of bonding in molecules and ions in terms of shared pair of electrons and octet rule. Yes, correct. We have seen only the valence electrons were represented in the Lewis dot structure. He will be writing the symbol represented by the valence pair, that is unpaired number of electrons. Now we have been discussing about octet rule. There are some limitations in octet rule. What are they? You might have seen in the slide of formation of oxygen molecule, where we were finding it was not matching with the octet configuration. The reason which I am going to explain it here. See, the incomplete octet of central atom. In all the cases, the complete octet rule is not achieved. There are some cases where there is incomplete octet configuration. Say for example, beryllium hydride, BF3, lithium chloride. In this, when you look into, in lithium chloride you will be having only 2 electron shares. There will not be octet configuration. In beryllium you have only 4 electrons, and in BF3 you will be having only 6 electrons each. Okay, these will not attain octet configuration. Now moving to odd electron molecules. See, say for example, nitric oxide NO, nitrogen dioxide NO2. Here also the octet rule will not be satisfied. When you try to draw the Lewis dot structure, you will not be getting 8 configuration, only 7 electrons will be present. Okay, so we have seen incomplete octet. In under incomplete octet we have seen 2 examples, like how we have 2, 4, 6 and 7. Now here there is another extreme. There are some examples where there is an expanded octet. Instead of 8, you will be getting more than 8 configuration. So what are those? It is nothing but phosphorus pentafluoride, that is PF5, sulfur hexafluoride, that is SF6. When you look into phosphorus pentafluoride, here you will be having 10. Instead of 8, the configuration will be 10, and SF6 you will be having 12 electrons each. So you need to try filling out this too as an example. Try writing sulfur in the center and 6 atoms around, 6 fluoride atoms around your sulfur, and write the atomic number. Try to fill the configuration with electron dot structure, your sulfur and fluoride. You will be getting as 12 electrons. Okay. Yeah, now this is a variation which we have discussed in the previous slide, the same example. Usually the variation of octet rule occurs with boron and elements belonging to higher periods, especially your beryllium, boron, phosphorus, sulfur and xenon. In the previous slide I told you beryllium's 4, boron 6, phosphorus 10, sulfur will be 10 or 12, xenon will be 10 or 12. These are the examples or for exceptions in octet rule. Okay, so we have seen 2 examples, 2 limitations of octet rule. One will be expanded octet, and what is the other case where the number of electrons will be less than that. Okay, we have seen some examples for that, especially your higher elements belonging to higher periods like boron, beryllium, phosphorus, sulfur, xenon, etc. Apart from that expanded octet and limited octet, we have other limitations of octet theory too. What are those theories? See, octet rule is mainly based on the inertness of the noble gases. We have already discussed, because noble gases has attained a stable configuration, so they try to be inert. Okay, but some noble gases try to combine with oxygen and fluorine. As a result, you will be getting number of compounds. Say for example, xenon. Xenon is a noble gas. As per rule, it should not react, right? But you know, it is combining with fluoride to form xenon fluoride. It is combining with oxygen too. Even krypton is combining with fluoride to form a number of compounds like this. Okay. Now, this is not accounting for the shape of the molecule. Your octet theory is not explaining me about the shape of the molecule. And it does not explain even the stability of the molecules too. There is no statements about energy of the molecule. So, stability, shape is not explained. Now, ionic bond or electrovalent bond, I have already discussed that ionic bond is formed in ionic compounds. Okay, when an ionic bond is formed, there should be a positive ion and a negative ion, then only then the ionic bond or electrovalent bond will be formed. And when the arrangement of positive ions and the negative ions in the solid will be such that you will be getting a crystalline compound. So what are the two criteria for the formation of ionic bond? It should be formed in the ionic compound. If it is an ionic compound, obviously you should have positive ion and a negative ion. And what is the third case? When they are going, the positive and the negative ion will be arranged in such a way such that it will be getting a crystalline compound. Okay, say for example, we have discussed in the chapter 3 about ionization enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy. We have discussed about ionization enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy. What is ionization enthalpy? Energy required to remove an electron from a gaseous atom in its ground state is ionization enthalpy. Electron gain enthalpy, energy associated with the gaining of electrons. Okay, I have told you ionization enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy will be little opposite. Say for example, magnesium, amount of energy required to remove an electron from magnesium. What is electron gain enthalpy? Atom X has gained an electron, so it becomes X minus. Now when I combine this ionization enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy, I will be writing as M plus X minus gives Mx. This is the overall reaction. And this point also we have discussed, electron gain enthalpy may be endothermic or exothermic, but ionization enthalpy will be always endothermic. Okay, it is always endothermic. And ionic bond can be formed easily between two elements with a comparatively low ionization enthalpy and elements with a high negative value of electron gain enthalpy. So this is an important aspect. When ionic bond can be formed easily, element having low ionization enthalpy and high EGE, that is electron gain value. When you look into ionic solid, just add your EGE, electron gain enthalpy, and ionization enthalpy. It is positive, but still the crystal structure can be stabilized. Why? Because some amount of energy is released in the formation of crystal lattice. I'll be repeating these two concepts again. Ionic bond can be formed if the ionization enthalpy is less and electron gain enthalpy is possessing a large negative value. Now, if it is an ionic solid, when I am going to add the value of electron gain enthalpy, which should be negative, and ionization enthalpy, but still I am getting the answer as positive. Why? Because the crystal structure, while the formation of a crystal compound, some amount of energy is released. That's the reason why the sum is showing as positive. Now, when I measure the stability of ionic compound, then I should measure the enthalpy of lattice formation. I cannot simply tell a compound has achieved octet configuration, so it is stable. That's not the correct statement. Even after achieving the octet configuration also, we need to measure the stability, especially from the enthalpy of lattice formation. Okay, now these two are opposite. enthalpy of lattice formation and lattice enthalpy are quite different. Let me explain. See, what is lattice enthalpy? Lattice enthalpy of an ionic solid is defined as energy required to completely separate 1 mole of ionic compound into gaseous constituent ion. Children, what is enthalpy of lattice formation? Enthalpy of lattice formation is amount of energy required, okay, to remove an electron. This is, your lattice enthalpy will be opposite to that of ionization enthalpy. What is ionization enthalpy? Energy required to remove an electron from gaseous atom in its ground state. What is lattice enthalpy? Energy required to separate an ionic compound into its constituent gaseous atom. So your lattice enthalpy and ionization enthalpy are quite opposite. So what is the first statement told you? A compound's stability is not only measured by octet configuration, you need to measure the enthalpy of lattice formation to know about the stability. Okay, children, the properties of the chemical bond we'll be discussing later. So you try doing the Lewis dot structure many times for at least on 20 compounds. Try to write that the most frequently compounds. Start from your hydrogen and end like whatever the examples which I have shown in the slide. Try to draw the Lewis dot structure. So this will be your homework. Then second, you try to draw the limitation of octet role. Right, expanded octet for phosphorus, sulfur. For that you try to draw expanded octet, and where octet is not completely satisfied, it's becoming incomplete, for boron and beryllium, that also you try to draw. Okay children, thank you. If you find any doubt somewhere else, we will be discussing that in the live session. Thank you.